So for those attending the session, we'll make sure that in the recording, we just flash the details for Biz Farm in Durban. Thank you again for the lovely presentation. According to our program, we have a break. May I ask that maybe we do the break up until 12, and then at 12, we can have our final speaker, Mr. Athan Malambo from MYCOZA, who will be talking to us about encryption in DNS and how to secure our domains and so forth.
15 years, for about the last 15 years. And to a large extent, for those of you that are familiar with domain names or own a domain name for your company or for your, for whatever particular purpose, understands that domains basically are the epicenter when it comes to encoding and security, in the sense that one of the first places that are going to be hacked, or compromised would be your email addresses, and your email addresses are basically linked up to your domain name. So for those of you that are familiar with encryption and or have a basic understanding of encryption, you'll understand that a lot of encryption and security mechanisms apply when it comes to the domain side of things, or the domain name industry. So with that, there's something that has been plaguing the industry when it comes to encryption and security for since the inception, since technology became as prevalent as it is, and especially as fast-paced as it is, that the big problem with encryption globally and security is that it's like kicking a bucket further down the road, meaning that there is no solution, absolute solution. Encryption evolves as technology evolves. So basically, encryption is a little bit ahead of what is produced out there. And when I say it's a little bit ahead, meaning that technologically, a lot of the hackers are a little bit more advanced. They're looking for flaws. They're outthinking us, So by the time, a new format of encryption is incorporated or conceived, these hackers have moved on. Encryption has evolved relating to, I almost said the dark web, but that's where a lot of things happen. That's where a lot of technology exchange takes place. But basically on new methods, so technology is constantly, encryption is constantly, or legitimate encryption is constantly catching up, having to play catch up, meaning that it's always literally one step behind. It's never in front. Okay, and that's what makes vulnerability so possible. So encryption is a massive thing relating to any communications device, whether it's domain names, whether it's your mobile devices and things like that. Encryption plays a key role. Everybody has understood that, it's impossible to remember all your passwords, your banking passwords, your phone passwords, and when you get logged out or you need to reset your passwords, it's a problem. So to a large extent, encryption itself is problematic because it takes back, technology is there to make our world more efficient, but yet encryption, securing the technology, is actually making us less efficient. So now, before we can move at large spaces, or paces, we find ourselves bogged down. And bogged down with having to implement new kinds of encryption security technologies, bogged down by the time it takes to reset passwords, by the confusion, by the complexities of having to safeguard our digital assets, and whether those digital assets are our digital bank accounts, or whether our company's websites, or with our email accounts, they're all digital assets. But securing these digital assets or making them less vulnerable is literally becoming a problem in and of itself. Okay, so the bottom line is that, if we look at it from a technological perspective, look, more technology is going to roll out. You guys are going to have to remember more passwords, harder passwords. So it doesn't make it efficient. It's just absolutely inefficient as we implement more patch solutions for security. Okay. So the reality is that is the juice worth the squeeze? Is the juice worth the squeeze? Meaning that, you know what, is it actually viable to have all these mechanisms of security and encryption when you can't, you're so busy and spending money on it and dealing with it operationally, you can't run your business? You know, the idea about banking is to be quick, efficient, easy transfers. Encryption does not make it easier. Encryption can be a bottleneck. And the more encryption, the greater the operational bottlenecks, meaning that you are becoming less efficient, business wise or personal wise or economic wise, because you have to deal with all these different elements of encryption. That's sad news, and that's a reality as it is. As I said, that's one of the reasons why the security and encryption industry is constantly playing catch up. And with that, I do think that one of the things that do play a part in changing things for the future is now the onset and the implementation of AI. AI now basically has the capacity not to overtake, but basically to catch up. Meaning that as new forms of penetration are developed, okay, AI will allow for the ability to catch up with the development, not overtake it, but just play catch up with it. Meaning that moving forward, we would be able to see more efficient forms of encryption coming out, okay, and more applicable forms, in the sense that, you know what, with the advance of AI, you might not need to remember all these different passwords for every single device. Okay, because your personal AI would be able to do that for you. So all you might need to do is to be able, if your personal AI recognizes your voice tone, recognizes your eye iris when you look at it, and say, hello, Alexa, or whatever the case may be, you would have been verified, and through that verification, you would have access. Now, I'm basically I'm talking now about augmented reality as it comes to encryption. I'm just trying to predict the future that doesn't exist yet. But basically, it is safe to say that to a large extent, AI might, and that might is a very big probability, have the solution in order for us to move forward and not bypassing security elements. You must remember something, as technology advances, one of the things about encryption and security protocols, that they usually, as I said, they're mitigating what already exists. So because they're mitigating what already exists, to a large extent, they are finding loopholes, okay? And those loopholes basically allow for technology, legitimate technology, to improve, okay? So meaning that the negative is actually not a negative. The negative has positive evolutionary elements in it based in technology, so the negative will never go away. In order for technology to evolve, you need hackers. You need people constantly trying to penetrate the system. The only thing, as I said, is that we are so far behind that it's impeding on our capacity to be efficient. Okay. However, it's a byproduct of the human nature, the good and the bad, but now the good would at least be able to, with AI, to be able to catch up with the bad. And with that, I don't want to dwell into the technicalities of encryption and the different kinds of encryption formats, because that, I think, for the majority of the audience, that's pretty useless. The idea of encryption, basically, for anyone sitting and watching this, is how does encryption impact my life day to day? How does it impact? I can tell you this much: if you've got a mobile phone, yes, it impacts your life. When they tell you you need to reset your password, it impacts your life. When you need to make a transfer and there's a problem with the bank, it impacts your life. Chances are it's not the technology that's the problem, but it's the encryption, the validation protocols that are causing these kind of issues. And they impact your economic and social efficiency. So, as even though it might be something considered hidden in the background, it is still the format relating to, or the greatest format relating to efficiency moving forward. Okay, with that, I'm not going to bore you guys too much. But if anybody has any questions, I will open it up for questions um, by any, for anyone. Any questions? Cody, I think if you can hear me, I'm not too sure what's happening with, I can't hear anybody. Are there any questions?
No, we can hear you, Athan, and yeah, thank you so much for the presentation. I like the part where you just sprung into creative mode about the argumentative reality of encryption. So this was kind of like, aha moment on how we can look into the future and look at how, things that are changing, especially when it comes to technology. Like you mentioned, technology is always evolving. It's one of the sectors that are evolving each and every time when we go into the internet and looking at what sort of things that have been created. And the faster, the technology creation and innovation also needs us as well to think outside of the box. And yeah, I think what you've shared with us right now really, really turned into something that is worth thinking of as well. Thank you.
No, you're more than welcome, Monday, and you are right that the idea of augmented, we have to augment. We have to be able to see into the future, with what we have, in order to try and build systems to mitigate that future, that the negative element of what the future might hold. So, and I think that to a large extent, a lot of that framework, when it comes to technology is dependent on us to get to visualize. You might call it fantasize, but let's just use visualize a future of what can be. And that's why I address that. Nobody must think that for 1 second, because they can't see the encryption happening in the background, that it doesn't impact their lives. Yes, it does. You know what I mean? When you can't make that transfer, and you've got the service provider on your back, it impacts your life. So yeah, with that, look, we can go into a number of different formats for people, but I mainly wanted to deal with what impacts people's lives, that they're not realizing how and why it's important, and the struggles and the fights going in and the background, and how people are thinking by trying to solve these solutions relating to our frustrations, you know what I mean, when it comes to technology.
Well, yes, thank you so much. So this brings us to, yeah, one of the most exciting things as well in terms of questions and answers session, or any general thoughts that you have with the session of global encryption. We're also just going to share, a link by GED just to look at what do they have as well in terms of global encryption day. I'm just going to share it on the chat as well. If you still want to know more about how you can get involved as well with this particular celebration in all, the yes, that global encryption as well will be, happening. So it's on the chat. So please do share with us any chat or questions if you do have. Khoreshang there at Soweto. Okay, I can see on the chat as well. Mohau is asking, good day. Thank you for a wonderful presentation throughout. My question is, how can businesses ensure their online addresses, mostly the domain, is secured and protected from cyberbullying? Ethan, I'm not sure if you want to take maybe that question, or is there anyone here as well in terms of can share that? There's a question on the chat.
Yeah, that's let me jump into that relating to securing a domain name.
Yeah.
Look, the standard process or practice when it comes to securing a domain name for business, almost anything, is SSL. Okay, we call it secure socket layers. Now, sometimes when you go to a website online, you will see sometimes in the right hand corner, or in the left hand corner, the far left hand corner, just before you get the name of the company. Okay, if you run your mouse over it, it will actually indicate there with a little icon that this domain is secure. Okay, if it's got a X on it, if it's got an X, you'll see that, you know what, it will, and you run your mouse over the X, it will say that this domain is unsecure. So those are SSL certificates, you know what I mean, that most domains now, it's literally become mandatory relating to Google for all domain names to have SSL secure certificates with them. So that's relating to domain names. Specifically, you get different kinds of SSL certificates. You get branded, unbranded, but mainly it indicates that the website, basically is secured by encryption. Okay. I don't know if that answers your question.
No, thank you so much, Ethan, for the details. A bit more how I've shared some of the description as well on SSL certification or certificate when it comes to securing your website. As also one of the things that we can add is that when you are building a website, you're buying a domain in companies like my.co.za, and also when you're setting up your website, there's other, let's say maybe you're setting up on Joomla or maybe WordPress. There will be plugins as well that you need to put in as well to make sure that every transition, because you'll be taking people's information, that website in terms of being Googled is also secured for people to trust it, that they can actually put their information there, and the information is safe. So very, very important to and secure your website. And yeah, it has become a standard thing right now when it comes to creation as well. So I'm not sure, there's a question as well. I'm currently experiencing challenges that our business website has been hacked the past 2 weeks. What are the easy way to retrieve it and has been blocked by Google? Ethan, on that part, Ethan, sorry, yeah. To add again,
Are you going to leave that to me, Mandi?
yeah, I'm going to leave that to you. How can he retrieve his website? It's been hacked for the past 2 weeks, and and this has been blocked by Google. Yeah, probably.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, well now you'll understand the importance of making sure that when your website is hacked, basically you're dealing with a CMS, meaning that you're actually the website itself was not custom coded; it was built on a CMS, usually something like Joomla, WordPress, Drupal, or something of that kind. That's what makes it vulnerable, because it's a program on its own. It makes it vulnerable to attacks like this. Okay, so. Look, it depends to clean up a hack, depends on the severity of the hack. because once the hackers penetrated the database of the website or the CMS, it's not going to be, you'll probably have, be able to save more money actually rebuilding the site from the ground up, than cleaning up a hack that's that severe, and it might actually be so severe it's not retrievable. A way out basically is to get a hold of your internet service provider and find out if what the latest backup was of that website. But before they reinstall that backup, if they do have a latest backup of the website, before they reinstall it for you, make sure that they just run an antivirus system on that server to clean up any residual infection. So that's very important. So you want to make sure that the environment is sterilized before you run a new backup of the website. But yeah, it depends on the severity of the hack. The best people to contact your hosting service provider. They will be able to help you out. They'll be able to look at it and assess it for you, because you do need an assessment of the damage done. It might be very mild, and if it's a mild hack, it could be resolved in a couple of minutes flat. So if you don't know how to go about the assessment, there are websites online that can do that assessment for you and give you steps, recommendation steps. Alternatively, your best bet is to get a hold of your hosting service provider. They will help you. They don't want to lose you as a client, so they will jump in and at least be able to advise you on how to resolve the problem and take it forward.
Thank you, Athan, for that, and very important to understand the differences